This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Morningside University Head Coach Steve Ryan. In this episode, Coach Ryan shares his experience navigating his program through the pandemic, explains the importance of developing men beyond the playing field, and highlights the lessons he learned early in his career as a high school freshman football coach. Now, let's get Inside the Headset with Coach Ryan.
Coach Ryan, how's it going?
It's going great, Mario. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the opportunity to talk with you. First and foremost, I know we're a little bit out from the end of the last football season, but it's never too late, in my opinion, to say, congratulations on the national championship this past fall and your third national championship. I know that means a lot, but with it being your third in the last 4 years, I'm extremely curious of not just what it means to you to win the national championship, but what is that probably that senior class that has been a part of all three of those. What does that class mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, we'd won 2 national championships, and then last year we lost in the semifinals. And so it's just crazy, with COVID and everything else, you're just going through that process of who's going to come back, who's not going to come back. And, a number of those guys came back. And so I felt in 18 and 19 we had some legitimate superstars. And so this senior class truly means a lot to me because we probably didn't have all those guys. But what it took for them was to say, all right, we didn't win last year. We have to recommit. We have to approach this thing by working extremely hard. And they did those things. They went through the process. And then just the team aspect of we're going to have to do it together. And so if I look specifically at these seniors, man, what an incredible group of guys to make a decision to say, hey, we're gonna finish this thing out right. We're gonna go out there and win it ourselves. So proud of them, love them so much for who they are. And then I think this, and I don't know, we're known for offense. Like we're averaging over 55 points a game. We've done that for years. Our defense was full of seniors, good football players, not superstars, to win every game in the playoffs and to win the national championship. They had to make a stop late, and they always did it. And that's probably something I think of those guys. That's the power of team. That's the power of belief. That's the power of working hard and doing it together.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, I think it's awesome. You've been at Morningside for 20 seasons, and that's a feat within itself. Posting 208 and 41 record over that period of time, and over those years, I'm sure you've become very knowledgeable about all things Morningside, and probably have encountered all types of obstacles along the way. But you just mentioned COVID, and that was just something that I don't care how much you prepare, how long you coach for, just navigating that whole scene that I know it was a couple years ago now. How did that help your bond as a team, especially right in the middle of a run of having a really good football program?
Yeah, I mean, I think what those years did is it made you reflect on what your values are. And I think for individuals, my individual goals and values, are they going to match up with the teams? And I feel the teams that were able to be successful in 20 and 21 had to be able to get their players on one page of one team. Right. You have to be able to talk through issues. You have to be able to talk through how you're going to communicate things. And I think you had to come up with a clear definition of what does it mean to love each other and how is love expressed from one man to another. And we just, our guys just really bought into each other, believed in each other and their love for each other. And for that, I'm truly grateful and appreciative. But those are the challenges that come out of a couple of years of, in many ways, of unrest.
Absolutely. You've had this long run here at Morningside, as I just mentioned, and addition to this national championship you won this past season, you also won your 4th National Coach of the Year, and then also won the AFCA National Coach of the Year. How do you stay motivated? I know as a football coach that is that's an easy question for a football coach, but how do you stay motivated and also just keep sharpening your tools to make sure that you're always bringing your A game moving forward after such a long period at one place?
Right. Without question, if you don't change, if you don't adjust, you're going to get beat. And that's such a huge part of things. Number one, all those awards, head coaches get awards because they have players that play really hard and are very talented, and they have assistant coaches that do a phenomenal job. And so those awards, I'm really humbled by. I've got a lot of assistant coaches that have stayed loyal and faithful to me and for a long time, and I'm truly appreciative of that. But as a head coach, you always have to be adjusting. You always have to be changing. And so every year you've got to be able to make changes to your offense, your defense. People are trying to catch you, and the good or bad of it as a coach, yes. I always feel like somebody's catching me, and I better get myself going.
That's right. I can understand that. Now, this is a side note question, especially as I, hear you answering that. What if you reflect back to that first day on the job, that first season at Morningside, and kind of look at where the program is now? What are some of the changes that you've seen, amongst the program and maybe within yourself or your staff or your culture? What are some of the biggest changes you can kind of think of?
Yeah. So if I reflect back to 20 years ago, that's a huge reflection. I took a job that nobody wanted. So when I took the job at Morningside, there was only 19 players left on the team. That was how bad the situation was. And then I was a young coach at 34, and I did an amazing job of whittling it down to 7. So a lot of it is just establishing what is it that you want to believe in, and hey, this is what we're going to be about. And then you have to live a life of integrity to begin with. So whatever you're preaching, you've got to live it. And it's got to be a part of who you are. It's got to be a part of the way you talk. And it's got to be, sold, day in, day out. And so a couple of things that I think are really different. In the early years, one of the things I used to always love was giving talks about belief and faith. Like, man, you can do it. You got to believe in it. This is our day. This is our time. And I think every coach loves to give those belief and talks. Our seniors went 53-1. I mean, if I were to ever give that talk now, they'd all look at me like, what is Coach talking about? Does he not think we're going to win? And that's a phenomenal place to be in,
right?
Where, in the early parts of any program, you have to get people to believe before they see. There's a great story in the Bible where Jesus says to who we call doubting Thomas, greater are those going to be who believe that have never seen. That's amazing faith. And that's a powerful job of any coach in the early stages of building a program, is you've got to get guys to believe that they can accomplish something that they've never seen. To me, that's the biggest thing where we're at right now is I don't have to do that. They believe each and every week that they step out in the field that they are the favorite and they're going to win. And now that's a whole different style of coaching that now you've got to get them to work to actually deserve victory. But I would say that's the biggest change from when I started, that creation of belief and faith. What does that look like? We've got to work hard so that we deserve victory, to now it's we've got to work hard so that we can deserve victory to match our belief and faith that's already there.
Absolutely. Well, that's interesting. You're 34 years old. You see this very difficult job on the horizon. It's an opportunity there for you. I kind of mentioned to you before the podcast, we do have a lot of young listeners that are, up and coming coaches, and they're in these positions where they're making some very difficult decisions. Do I take this job? It could be a one or 2 years and done type deal, or, do I attack the challenge, or do I wait? What was that mindset when you were looking at this very difficult job?
Yeah. I needed a job. So let's just start with that. I mean, there's some of that you can just say, hey, I needed a job. I didn't have a job. Now, I had been offered a few other jobs. The big thing that I looked at the time is I was offered jobs that I thought, hey, if I do a good job with this, I could move into a job like Morningside. What I looked at with Morningside is I felt this is a place that is highly underperformed. Therefore, I can create a great change here. And I had set my goal that I wanted to build one of the top 5 small college programs in the country. So I looked at guys like, Mike Van Diest at Carroll or Larry Karras at, Mount Union, and said, hey, can I build a program like that? And I felt at Morningside I could do that. So that's one of the reasons why I took it. Number one is I felt it had been underperforming. They hadn't had a winning season in 20 years, but I felt that there was things in place that allowed it. So I saw the potential, and I believed in myself. I said I can get that potential out of that.
Well, there's nothing like actually believing in kind of what you're preaching to your team, and so that's almost you had to believe it before you saw it there. I mean,
exactly.
Like you said, that probably scared a lot of people off, from potentially taking that job, and you did believe in what you're
or they were smarter than me, which is probably what it was.
Well, as of late, you're definitely proven that wrong there. So, congratulations on that. And, I'm going to kind of hit on this because I was going to ask you this a little bit later, but it kind of fits off what you just said. You said you had this belief that you could turn this into a top 5 program that just year in and year out is going to be a competitive program. I would imagine with that turnaround, especially being a young coach up and coming and you're doing these fantastic things, you've had some opportunities maybe to take a different job, go be a coordinator at a bigger school, be a head coach at a bigger school, make a little more money, all that kind of stuff. How do you continue to want to stay motivated to stay at Morningside and continue to build on that versus jump into the next big job like a lot of coaches tend to do?
Right. So I kind of wrote down an answer to that, and I'm not going to give that answer. So hopefully I don't give myself trouble here. So probably because you've asked me some good questions. Those opportunities don't necessarily come. So winning doesn't necessarily give you opportunities, and young coaches need to kind of understand that it does open some doors. So in the early years, I thought that when we were doing things well and we were making the playoffs, we weren't going deep in the playoffs, we were in the playoffs. I wasn't getting opportunities. And so I remember sitting down with probably some good friends that weren't coaches. And the challenge that was laid out to me was, all right, so you're not getting opportunities. Are you actually doing your best? I mean, is this the best? Maybe you need to change your goal. Maybe your goal needs to be to make Morningside football the best football program you can possibly make it to be. And I changed a lot of the values of our program. We really focused more on manhood, and we started talking about manhood with our guys. We gave them a definition: real men, accept responsibility, lead courageously, seek the rewards of significance, not just success. And if you're around our program, like for example, we've just gotten about 40 players back from spring break. Some of them were in the Dominican Republic doing great sports ministry work and exciting work down there. We had a bunch of them that were down in Lake Charles. That place is a mess from tornadoes, and they're rebuilding homes. And we really started a lot of this, idea of development of men. And so what came out of that, and I think this is important, is we started winning national championships. We started winning those type of things. And I think our program kind of became that. And I really found purpose, meaning, and enjoyment in seeing men grow in their values and who they are, becoming responsible, becoming courageous, seeking higher goals in their life. At that point, jobs start to come. And then I think as a coach, you have to ask yourself, who's my audience? What's my audience? I mean, what am I all about? And I had 6 kids, and, number one, my audience is Jesus Christ. But number 2, I've got 6 kids, and I just never, they were entering that high school, junior high age. I just never wanted to be the dad that was, hey, I'm pursuing my career in a different town, and I just missed my daughter's senior year of basketball or my other daughter's senior year of track. And, I guess my values changed. Now, it never changed that I wanted to be the best coach I could be, and I wanted to see our guys become great men, and I still want to win championships. Though we are about making a difference in your life, and it's not just about success. Nobody wants to win more than Steve Ryan. I just think values change, and a lot of it comes down to, I think every man has to ask the question, who's my audience, and what's my life going to be about?
Well, we typically take a soundbite from the podcast and kind of put it on our social media whenever we're trying to get listeners. I can already foresee that something from that last answer would definitely be a piece there, because I think with the amount of money that's been paid in this industry right now, in some jobs, not every job, but the amount of money in some of the jobs, and just the ridiculous pressure that there is to win. I think a lot of us, maybe tend to get our mindset on that next thing and not focus on being the best coach that I am right now, being where my feet are. And I just love that you put such a huge focus on that, and that's fantastic. Now, who's somebody that's been really impactful in your career, that especially early on, that you were able to lean on and ask questions and bounce ideas off of when you first took that role and moving forward?
Yeah, I think probably the most influential coach in my life is just my dad. So I say that, and I'm not going to go on the whole dad thing, although Dad, man, you're amazing. And my dad was a 3-sport coach in high school and did all of that, was heavily involved in FCA and everything. And I always wanted to be a high school coach. And so early on, I worked for a guy by the name of Pete Ventrilli at Downers Grove North, and he made me the head freshman coach. And so I was a head freshman coach for 5 years. I think that's the most influential time in my life. And I think we had at times 3 teams that I was in charge of. And so number one, it taught me, I had to understand the fundamentals of every single position, right? You don't have many assistants. You got all these guys. I had to understand the fundamentals of every single position. I had to learn to organize. I had to learn to organize players, make sure players could play different positions, understanding talent, what they could do. I think those things were huge. But I think probably one of the greatest things that Pete gave me was this understanding of his program was called The Right Stuff, and he talked about character, attitude, leadership, and discipline. And here I am 30 years later. I can give you the definition for all 4 of those. And he had a very clear and succinct program. He told me, as your head freshman coach, you have to become an expert at character, attitude, leadership, and discipline. You have to talk about them every day. And so I did. I became an expert at all 4 of those. I got the definitions memorized. I talked about them every day. And what I learned is this: you can get anything out of your players as long as you don't ask for too much. And so you have a very clear program. You have very clear goals that you teach, and you have an answer for everything that happens. And I just look back on those years of being a head freshman football coach under a great high school football coach that understand how to build a program, taught me how to be a head coach.
I know everybody that's tuning in is here to listen to Coach Ryan, but I've said this on podcasts in the past before. The best job I ever had, I had the opportunity to coach Division I all the way down every level. The best job I ever had was my first job as an 8th grade head football coach, and all the cool stuff that I wanted to do, it didn't matter. I had to get back into the fundamentals and teach kids how to get in the athletic stance, and just it helped fine-tune me down the road. And it's just amazing to have this 3-time national championship, 4-time NAIA, AFCA National Coach of the Year on. And one of the most impactful jobs is this freshman head job because of all those detailed things and getting to character and all that kind of stuff. So that's absolutely awesome. And that's what this profession is all about.
And Mauro, you've probably had this conversation. Most college coaches have never had that opportunity to have a young man ask them, now, why does the butt pad go in the back and not in the front? Right? Like, why are we not putting this pad in the front? Why are we putting this in the back? And those kind of conversations that you only get when you're a middle school coach
right.
and a freshman coach and you're coaching kids at that age. And let's just add this. Kids go out for a lot of different reasons, and they're not bad. Not everyone wants to, some just go out to hang out with their friends.
Right.
Some want the girls to notice them. Some their mom makes them.
Yep. And
you've got to learn how to coach them. And you've got to learn how to get them excited, and you've got to learn how to teach them do hard things that they don't want to do. And I think, going through that has always helped me as a head coach.
I appreciate you sharing that, Coach. That's absolutely fantastic. Before I let you go here, Coach, I did want to ask you one thing. You're a member of the AFCA Board of Directors. You've been the 11-time AFCA Regional Coach of the Year. Obviously, you have a lot of affiliation with the AFCA. What is the AFCA, our association? What has that meant to you over the years?
I think it's meant everything. So when I got into college coaching, I worked for a man by the name of Chris Creighton, and Chris said, "Hey, you need to be involved with the AFCA." And at that point, I started getting involved. Number one is I think one of the things that's always impressed me is that the AFCA cares about the game of football, just like I care about the game of football. And that goes beyond, it's not just a game about winning. our job is to build men. Our job is to protect the game. This game is so valuable and so important for the men and women of our country. And it's just amazing to be around some just great men at all levels, Division I, Division II, Division III, and NAIA, that just love the game of football, love coaching, and want to protect it. And that's what I see out of Todd Berry and so many of the other great coaches that are involved in the AFCA.
Well, Coach, we sure appreciate your, not just your dedication to the AFCA, but dedication to the young people in your program. And, you mentioned some of those guys going down to, Louisiana to help out and doing some amazing things. And that happens with fantastic leadership. So just, appreciate everything that you've done for our association and what you've done for your young people in your community.
Thanks, Mario.
All right, Coach. Well, you have a good one. Best of luck this spring, and look forward to another fantastic season coming up.
All right, thanks. Hopefully you can get 5 minutes or a clip out of there. So I really appreciate it.
No doubt, Coach. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price. And remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.